This is my current dust collection system. Like me, it's not much to look at, but it manages to get the job done. All it is one of Oneida's dust deputy cyclones atop of a 40-gallon drum, along with a shop vac to run it. The beauty of using one of their cyclones is that it really does do a phenomenal job at separating out all the dust and letting it drop down into the drum while the shop vac itself remains perfectly clean. The intake hose runs from the drum, back behind my miter station, past my table saw, and wraps around and coils up underneath my router table. From here, I can easily stretch it out to any of the tools that require dust collection and plug it in using some custom-made fittings that I whipped up because I'm too cheap to buy the good ones. Or I can fasten on an attachment and sweep up the shop. I really do like this setup. It's convenient and it's easy to use, but it does have its shortcomings. For example, the suction isn't all that strong, so sometimes it struggles. Additionally, when I inevitably sweep up screws or washers, I have to unhook the hose and shake them all out. It's not the end of the world, but it is kind of a pain. Also, if I get too aggressive and try to suck up too much, the intake will get all stopped up worse than me after fondue night. When this happens, there's zero suction and I have to dig out the clog with a screwdriver while breathing heavy into the microphone. Another thing is that there's no easy way for me to know when the bin is full. This usually means that it overfills and it stops working until I pop off the top and get all dusty and drag it out back. Plus, with it being so full, it's really heavy when I go and lift it up over the fence to dump it into my neighbor's yard. So, I wanted something new. Since I'm already a big fan of Oneida, I went out to their website to see what they had to offer. Their engineers sent me a form to fill out so that they could help me determine the best system for my shop. I included a list of all the power tools that I have that need dust collection, along with port counts and sizes. They even requested a layout drawing of my shop so that they could understand where things are and how to run ductwork or hoses. I also included a drawing my son did of a Chickosaurus Rex monster that's destroying the city because, well, it's kind of cool. Well, the verdict came in, and they assured me that their new SuperCell unit should not only solve all my problems, but that it would drastically outperform my previous setup. So I brought in all the boxes and I began to unpack things until eventually I had all the pieces spread out over my bench and table saw. The first order of business was to rip out the old system. This wasn't very hard at all. Just a single hose clamp that needed to be unscrewed, and then I could just carry out all the pieces and pull the hose clear. Now I can start putting the new one together. Step number 1 was to flip the mounting bracket upside down and piece together this foam circle gasket thingy. This will be where the dustbin gets clamped on, so we need a good airtight seal. I traced it in place and then peeled off and stuck each segment into position, working all the way around. I fastened down the side clips that will hold the dustbin, and then I could head over and start making some marks on the wall. It's important to note here, before putting up this drywall, I did reinforce the mounting location by running a 2x6 horizontally between the studs. This will give the bracket all the support that it'll need. So I measured up the right height, made a mark, and then I drew a level line. They included a handy template that I could tape right onto the wall, which had all the drill locations already laid out for me. So I punched a hole at each one, removed the template, pre-drilled, and drove in all my screws. At this point, I could grab the bracket and drop it into place, and then tighten up all the screws. Next, I grabbed the big traffic cone thing and stuck one of those other foam gasket deals on the end. Once I got that done, I could flip the whole thing upside down and plop it down onto the wall bracket. I got it oriented just the way I wanted, and then I could slip in some bolts. Next up was the grande-sized coffee filter. This thing just sits down on top of the traffic cone, and then it gets secured in place with a metal ring. Now, one of the biggest selling points of Oneida's SuperCell is that it has 10 times the suction power of the standard dust collector. They accomplished this by putting in 3 motors for a combined 5 horsepower to operate the fan blower. That's a ton of power. Plus, there's a little wiggly spring in there that's fun to flick and watch wobble back and forth. I mean, that alone is worth it all. And since you haven't seen me install enough gaskets yet, I flipped the motor housing upside down and add another one around the bottom edge. And in order for this thing to breathe underwater, I had to install this clear vinyl tubing. At this point, I could install the head unit into position. I drop it down on top, line it up, and clamp it into place. The tubing gets tucked down a hole in the back, and then I shove some robot's eyeball into this grommet. And that thing's connected to the "oh crap" warning light that gets mounted to the wall above the dust collector. Next, I throw some wheels onto the dustbin, stuff a bag into it, and roll it over into place. The tube keeps an equalizing vacuum pressure into the bottom of the bin so that you can use a bag without it getting sucked up into oblivion. Now I can connect and run the hose. This is a very heavy, rigid 4-inch hose. You actually can't use some of the other softer, more pliable ones because the suction is so strong that it will just collapse and crush it as soon as you turn on the machine. I have the hose take the exact same path as my previous setup, behind the miter station, and around back of the table saw. And I clamp on a reducer, and then I can use this heavy-duty elephant trunk-looking hose to extend the reach and make the new system easily accessible for the entire shop. Alright, let's plug it in and see how it works. Using the fancy little remote they include. Nice! Next, I could go around to each one of my tools and swap out the goofy connectors with a standard 2.5-inch one. And in some cases, no adapter was needed. I could just stick the hose directly into the tool. Now this isn't a very scientific test, but I wanted to see if I could clog up the machine by giving it too much to handle. I emptied out my planer shavings bag onto the floor, and I'll attempt to suck it up as quick as I can. Mind you, this footage is not sped up so that you can get a pretty good sense for how effectively it's working. Not bad. But what about large hand plane shavings? Not a problem at all. Then I went and got the weights out of my Sweatin' to the Oldies VHS workout kit, and I figured I'd put the suction to the test. I wanted to see if it could lift these weights just by suction power alone. So I started with the 3-pound weight. Well, it lifted that with ease. How about a 5-pound weight? Well, no problem at all. But what if I strapped both of those weights together? It did it! That's 8 pounds of lifting force despite 50 foot of hose and a reduction of 2.5 inches.
That is crazy!
Well, I carried on and I gave my entire shop a good vacuuming. And while I was wandering around cleaning, you can see how the strobe light started to flicker. This signals that it's a good idea to subscribe to this channel. And that the dustbin was full. And a quick glance into the little viewport confirmed it. So how easy is it to empty the bin? That easy. Also, built into the unit is a way to clean the internal filter. Simply close the blast gate, turn it on, and use this whammy bar a few times. It reverses the suction, cleans the filter, and sends all the dust down into the bin. How cool is that? All in all, I couldn't be happier with my new setup. It solved all the issues I was having with my previous one, and it outperforms it tenfold. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, or perhaps one of the other dust collection solutions they have, then head over to oneida-air.com. Thanks to Oneida for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching. Well, that's it for this one. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
What are you doing? You're getting all dusty. You're getting all dusty. Oh, man. Oh, crap. Doggone it. Oh, crap. There's wood there. Guess I don't need to use anchors. Alright, gotta go find some screws. Crap. I keep bumping the camera. Idiot. Helps if you hook up the bucket. I was wondering why that wasn't working.